In this video, we're doing a full in-depth review of the amazing Sony 100-400 F4.5-5.6 G Master. As usual, we'll be breaking down every aspect that's important to do with this lens to help you decide whether or not you should buy it. Let's get started. Welcome back, guys. I'm excited to finally bring you my full in-depth review on the Sony 100-400 G Master. And after a few years of eyeing this thing, I finally pulled the trigger. And after a few months of extensive testing and use, I feel ready to finally give you my thoughts on this thing. And we're gonna start off with build, of course, as usual. But first, if you haven't seen one of my videos before, my name is Stefan Malloch. I do a lot of photography and filmmaking news reviews and tutorials. So if you enjoy this video, if it helps you out, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, I wanted to give you a few specs here on this lens to get you going and answer who this lens is actually for. Well, it's a professional lens. It's a G Master lens, meaning it's Sony's most expensive and best quality lenses. As you'll see, this lens can be used for a multitude of things, from portraits to wildlife. It's a flexible and great performing lens with, unfortunately, the price tag to match. So having said all that, let's get going and jump right into build. So let's look at what's in the box as well as the build of this lens. Sony's included a very nice carrying case with a strap for this lens, as well as a nice lens hood, and that's pretty much it. The overall build of this lens is fantastic, and nothing less than you'd expect from a G Master in this price range. At full extension with the lens hood installed, it measures about 14 inches long. Take off the lens hood for about a 3-inch reduction, which is about what you're looking at with the lens hood on with no zoom extension. And when traveling without the lens hood on, you're looking at only about 8 inches. Overall, it's a great size for me and never really feels intrusive. It's also a decent weight at only 1,395 grams or just over 3 pounds. The nice big grippy and intuitive focus and zoom ring turn nicely and confidently. And of course, this lens does extend as it zooms, but you won't find a lock switch. Instead, Sony's opted to include a unique zoom sensitivity dial, letting you choose a smooth or a tight throw, depending on the feel you like. There's also several convenient buttons and switches to help you out, including an automatic manual focus switch, a focus limiter switch, your optical steady shot on and off, as well as a mode 1 and 2 switch. One feature that I would have loved to see included in this lens is a manual focus override setting. It's not a huge deal, but it's really nice to have that ability when there's a bird in a tree or something that you just need that extra little bit of confidence when it comes to manual focus quickly. It does, however, have not 1 or 2, but 3 customizable buttons to help you out with whatever you're looking for. On the front, you'll find 77mm filter threads, as well as Sony's AR nano coating, which helps with ghosting and flaring. Now, one of the main reasons that really helped me decide on this lens was its incredible minimum focus distance of just over 3 feet. But more on that later. On the back, you'll find a nice sturdy metal mount, as well as a fantastic little rubber gasket for confidence when it comes to weather sealing. The built-in tripod collar is easily adjusted and the foot is easily removed, giving you ease of use and versatility in any situation. The solid lens hood even has a door to help you access your ND or polarizing filter. As a whole, when it comes to the build of this lens, I am impressed with just a few little things that are missing for me, and I give it 4.5 stars. Next, let's touch on value a little bit. And I understand when you're buying a G Master lens, money's not usually the biggest consideration. In this case, coming in at $2,500 US, it's not a cheap lens. However, I find myself using this thing in an incredible amount of situations, having that amazing minimum focus distance and being so versatile. It's one of the few G Master lenses that I can actually justify the price of. Initially, I had a hard time deciding between it and the newer 200-600 like a lot of people, and if you're in that situation and you still can't decide, I did make a buying guide for you on that. As you're about to see in performance, you do get what you pay for, and rating this thing as a whole in terms of value, I give it 4 stars. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. Performance. The overall performance of this lens is absolutely outstanding. And we'll have a look at autofocus first. Keep in mind that this lens was released with and for the A9, which has one of the most impressive and demanding autofocus systems out there. This entire review and all its footage was shot with my A7 III, so with the A9 it's going to be even more impressive. And what better way to test this thing out than with birds in flight? You can bet that whatever you point this lens at, whatever you throw at it, it's going to perform. I'm constantly amazed by this thing, and just whipping my camera around to capture whatever might be heading my way, it acquires focus and captures whatever I'm looking for instantly. And not to bash my old adapted Sigma 150-600, which did serve me well for years, but upgrading to this thing is like entering another universe. So yeah, it's got phenomenal autofocus, but let's talk about another huge factor in me choosing this lens, and that's the minimum focus distance. At just over 3 feet, this lens can produce some incredible macro-like shots, making it one of the most versatile extreme telephoto lenses out there. With your typical long-range lenses, you can expect between a 7 and 9 foot minimum focus distance on average, so to have a lens that performs this well inside a meter and still has some decent reach is fantastic. So now let's have a look at the optics and sharpness of this lens. As you'd expect, wide open at f4.5 at 100mm, the center is razor sharp, and the corners are, well, fantastic. And this is great to see as you stop down an improvement at 6.3, and this is going to continue all the way down to about f11, a great performance whether you're looking in the center or into the corners, it doesn't matter. After about f13 or so, down to f18, you're going to see some softness creep in from diffraction, but an overall still completely usable photo. Next, let's look at about 200mm, which is the middle of our focal range, and now our maximum aperture is f5.6. And as you'd expect still, razor sharp into the center, and a great performance in the corners. Stopping down to f8, a little bit of an improvement still. f11 looking good as well. After f11, you're going to see a little bit of softness creep in, but again, completely usable. And finally, where it matters at 400mm, f5.6 still being our maximum aperture, well, razor sharp into the center, and very, very good in the corners. Fantastic to see. As we stop down to f8, even better. And this is going to be about our best f8 or f9. After f11, you're going to start to see diffraction again, and at f16, a little bit of softness, but again, completely usable. Overall, an amazing performance through every aperture and every focal range of this lens, and really, for the price and whatnot, I wouldn't expect anything different. So now having a look at the distortion and vignetting of this lens, at 100mm wide open, you can see that there's a little bit of distortion and vignetting, but use that profile correction to fix it right up. Overall, this lens doesn't really suffer that badly from distortion or vignetting. Let's have a look at 200mm now. And there's just a little bit more distortion and a tiny hint of vignetting, easily corrected with that profile correction, looking great. And at 400mm, same thing, a tiny bit of vignetting and a little bit more distortion, and it's fixed. So taking a step back and looking at this lens's performance as a whole optically, it's a great performer. Next, a quick look at the image stabilization at work. Here it is off at 100mm, and here it is on. Here's the difference at 400mm. Keep in mind as well, if you're using this lens on an APS-C camera or in crop mode, it's going to become a 150-600mm equivalent. And at those longer focal lengths, image stabilization is definitely your friend. So when you see a lens like this, you automatically think it's going to be used for wildlife and birds. But to be honest, I use it for a lot more than that. As you've seen, it's tack sharp and the autofocus is incredible. So yeah, it's great for birds and wildlife, but could you use it for portraits? Sure. What about events and landscape? Absolutely. It's small and portable enough that you can pretty much take it anywhere, and I find myself using it in a lot of cases. If you're still thinking about the 200-600 and where you won't have enough reach for your needs, consider that there's always the 1.4 or 2 times teleconverter that are designed to work with this lens. You will lose a few stops of light, as well as a little bit of sharpness on the long end, but it's going to be completely acceptable to the average person, making this, in my opinion, one of the most versatile and best traveling lenses out there. So looking at this lens in terms of performance as a whole, I'm very happy with it and give it a solid 4.5 stars. So if I haven't been clear throughout the review, I love this lens, and for me it replaces a lot of the lenses that I actually have to bring places. It's kind of an all-in-one for me personally, and that's one of the things that helped me justify the high price tag of this guy. As promised, here's my personal pros and cons for this lens. I know for a fact that I'm going to either break even or even make money on this lens as I bought it secondhand. It's an investment. Well, that's what I tell my wife anyways. And rating this lens as a whole, nothing's perfect, but this thing is darn close, and for that reason I give it 4.5 stars. And if you're a subscriber, you also know that I like to rate things on a scale from never think about again to consider to definitely buy. And in this case, if you're looking for a far-reaching telephoto lens that does it all, I can fully and absolutely recommend this one to you. So for me, this is one of my favorite lenses right now. It's just fantastic in its versatility as well as performance. If you're going back and forth and you can't decide between this lens and the 200-600, check out my full buying guide that I created to help you make a choice. Although it's still not an easy decision, I know. Guys, if you like this video, if it helped you out, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Drop your questions and comments down below. And if you want to pick this lens up, if you want to buy it, I'll leave an affiliate link in the description for you as well. Like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out there and take some more pictures. See you next time.